Right, so today we've been joined by Roger Gerrish, who's been playing a game of Campaign Western Desert, which is Bolt Action, and Roger's written a new supplement for Bolt Action, which is Campaign Western Desert, which is the second one you've done, isn't it, Roger?
That's right, yeah.
Second Bolt Action book, first one being
Road to Berlin.
Road to Berlin. So what, in general, what are the campaign books all about? They focus on a different theatre, do they, each one?
Yeah, each one looks at a theatre. Sometimes it can be cover a whole campaign, a couple of year campaign like the Western Desert, or some of them are smaller events like Market Garden, which perhaps took place over a month or so. But they're basically there to introduce to Bolt Action players, the specific armies that fought during that combat, those conflicts, the different equipment and materials that might not be in the original Bolt Action book. But it sort of really allows somebody who's interested in that particular period of the war to take their Bolt Action to sort of the next level with some more added detail.
Okay, and for the Western Desert, we're talking about the Western Desert, obviously. So we're in North Africa, aren't we? What point does the book start? Sort of when Mussolini moves into Egypt?
Yeah, you got it right, exactly. 1940, with the Italian declaration of war and the eventual invasion of Egypt by Graziani's Italian forces. We then take it through Operation Compass, which was the Commonwealth's fantastic counter-offensive against the Italian invasion. The arrival of the Africa Corps and Rommel, which of course changed everything. A lot of the British missed opportunities, such as Operations Battle Axe and Crusader. And we then look at what's probably Rommel's finest hour in the desert, which was the Gazala offensive, where the British Army and the 8th Army were pushed back all the way to Egypt. And then finally we cover the Alamein campaign, which of course was led up to Montgomery's famous victory and what Churchill classed as the end of the beginning.
Okay, right. So that's the history side of it, sort of covered. With regard to Bolt Action and the game mechanics, so what can we expect to find in there? Are they completely new rules, or are things been tweaked? I guess you've tried to focus on the theatre that it took place in, so there's things concerning weather, that kind of thing, I guess.
We focused on sort of the environmental differences that the Western Desert presented, which was generally a really arid, open landscape. Bolt Action players are going to find it different, perhaps a challenge, because you're not going to find the same amounts of terrain and other features to hide behind. So players will probably need to adapt the way they play. The wide open spaces, of course, are great for vehicles, tanks, etc. So they can use their mobility, and we can use tanks a lot more in the sort of the Bolt Action scenario. But of course, that open terrain also means those tanks are pretty vulnerable to aggressive anti-tank fire. So you have to be careful how you use them. So we built in various terrain effects. The special desert terrain, the soft sands, the wadis, the depressions, to make it that little bit different. From another perspective, we've looked at the armies, and probably the one I'll point out the most is the Italian army, because I've always noticed from reading about the Italians that they tend to get a very bad rep from what happened in those early parts of the war, where they were indeed a very inexperienced army going up against an experienced Western Desert force. But as the war progressed, and certainly by about 1942, when a lot of Italian army reforms had gone through, and also they'd learned a lot from operating with the Africa Corps, they became a much more aggressive, much more capable force. And one thing I noticed in the original Armies book for Italy in Bolt Action, the army there is very good for that sort of defensive-minded group that fought in 1940, but is not so reflective of perhaps what we saw later in the war. So I spent a lot of time working on the Italians, new units, new force selectors, army selectors in there, and also additional rules, national characteristic rules that change the way that they actually play. They're less inclined to be so defensive. They can be quite aggressive when they want to. But I've tried to make them something a little bit different. So from an Italian army collector, you can play it in a slightly different way than maybe have done previously.
Okay, right, cool. What about the sort of special forces as well? Are they covered?
Yeah, we had to include those because I think the SAS, the LRDG, they are absolutely
sort of classics.
Classic,
of
they
the
are.
desert,
They're the classics, Sterling's SAS. And I was very lucky that I was able to work with Sam Lancashire, or otherwise known as Sam Down Order for a lot of U-Bolt action fans, who provided an excellent list for me on the SAS, which we then expanded out to the LRDG. So we've got rules in there for you to be able to play with, the full range of the special vehicles that the SAS and the LRDG used. We've given you a special patrol scenario because, in general, those special forces don't really hold up well against a standard Bolt Army type platoon, which can have tanks and large guns, etc. So this scenario allows you to play with those. But in addition for that, I also wanted us to have some opposing forces for the SAS, and I looked around, and again, sort of wanting to look at the Italians, we looked at the Compagnia Sahariana, which was a similar force to the Western Desert's LRDG. Specialists, Italian specialists of colonials and some regular Italian troops who, developed their vehicles in much the same way as the LRDG did. Not a lot is read about them or written about them, but they were grudgingly accepted by the LRDG and the SAS as a powerful and determined foe. So it was nice to put them in as a counterpoint to the SAS and the LRDG.
Okay, good. And of course, with the magazine, we've included the article about the game that you played with Wayne, the sub-editor of the magazine. So obviously, being the writer of the rules, you won, did you? You beat him hands down.
No, I think that wasn't the case. Anybody who knows me as a wargamer knows that my dice rolling is appalling. Always has been. So I'm always handicapped in that, and I'm going to blame my loss in this particular case on those dice.
Okay, well, Wayne said he had a good time playing it anyway, and I'm sure anyone who buys it and plays it as well. We should give a quick mention to the figures as well, shouldn't we? Because of course,
definitely.
Warlord have bought out a range of figures to complement the book, as it were.
They're cracking. The Africa Corps and 8th Army figures. I mean, I think personally they're the best ones that Warlord have done so far. They're really characterful. The poses are great. The choices you get of equipment is fantastic, and something that ties in a little bit with the book as well is that the Commonwealth Forces, the 8th Army, was made up of many different nationalities. So with the box sets, you've got that ability to configure your forces, to look like New Zealanders, Indians, or Australians, etc. And to support that in the book, we've also included additional national characteristics. So if you want to play a South African force or a New Zealand force or an Indian force, there's special rules in there that allow you to do that. And if you want to focus on building a themed army like that, then it's all there for you.
Okay, right. Well, great. Thank you very much, Roger.
No problem. Thanks, Dan.
If you have come to this video from WI Interactive, then you will be able to read the accompanying article on screen. WI Interactive is the iPad version of Wargames Illustrated, the world's premier tabletop gaming magazine. It features video and other interactive content in every issue. Find out more by following the link.